You have probably heard about the affordable housing issue here in Albany. We are honored to have two people with us today who will discuss one solution to Albany's housing crisis. Stacy and Carol are volunteers who serve on the board of Creating Housing Coalition. Carol Davies is the vice president of Creating Housing Coalition. She's a former foster parent and has seen firsthand that when young people age out of the foster care system, not having support in finding housing can lead to homelessness. Carol has extensive experience in working with nonprofit organizations. Stacy Bartholomew is the president of Creating Housing Coalition. She attends First Christian Church, where the idea for Tiny Home Village was born. Her background is in mental health counseling. She also serves on the Albany City Council and is an employee of Habitat for Humanity. There will be a question and answer period following Carol and Stacy's presentation. And if you would like to donate, you may send in a check, note that it's for housing, or donate through our website. Thank you.
Well, I have to say, this was one of the best introductions that we've ever had. So thank you so much, Laura, Pastor Laura. Thank you so much for joining us today and having us here in your home. It's quite an honor to be here. We're Creating Housing Coalition, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization working to create permanent housing for low-income, unhoused individuals. In 2019, Oregon had twice the national average. Right on the mic. Okay. Thank you. Well, give me some space. No, just kidding. Had twice the national average of unsheltered residents. Homeownership is out of reach for many. In the New York Times recently reported that the devastating economic fallout has created an avalanche of evictions, bearing down on American renters. It is the lower income Oregonians who will continue to suffer the most. And those who worked hourly jobs that were cut, pushing them into poverty through no fault of their own, some of our hardworking neighbors, veterans, seniors, single parents, disabled folks have lost their housing because they can't afford it.
So if you could go to the second slide, please.
It's not us, this is glitching. Well, I was thinking about one. You know, what do they call that? Oh. How do you repair a broken gourd? With a pumpkin patch. Okay, it's another joke.
So if you're having a tremendous amount of trouble, we can certainly do it without the slides, so you just let us know.
Okay. Great. Well, now Carol will take over from here.
Low-income housing is a critical issue in Linn County on two fronts, affordability and availability. In Albany, the number of renters has increased while rent costs have skyrocketed within the past few years. Vacancy rates for rentals are low. The working poor, those who earn under $25,000 a year, are hardest hit as wages are not keeping pace with rising housing costs. The average percentage of income allotted to housing has to be less than 30% of wages if financial security is to be achieved. The 30% rule, formally established in 1969 as part of federal public housing regulations, is recognized as the guideline used to define affordability. When people pay more than 30% of their income for housing, their budgets and their lives could become unbalanced.
Well, you know, that 1969 rule is as old as I am. You know, and any household paying over 50% of their income on housing is considered severely rent burdened. According to the Oregon Housing Alliance, the number of Linn County households experiencing severe rent burden is 1 out of 4 renters. You know, but worse yet, 6 out of 7 renters with extremely low income are paying more than half of their income in rent. So some have to choose between buying food and getting their much-needed prescription filled after they pay their rent, because they don't have the money for both. As one economist puts it, rent eats first. Here are some other sobering facts from the Oregon Housing Alliance. 1 in 20 students experienced homelessness in 2019.
partners who will help facilitate different areas of Hub City Village community. Albany Area Habitat for Humanity is our partner in construction and development. Eugene-based Square One Villages is our partner and our inspiration for the development of our first community. As you can see, we have many partners, collaborators, and supporters, and the list continues to grow. Regional businesses like Pacific Power will be helping our village by contributing solar power panels. Local business Girding Builders has committed to building our first tiny home, which will be used as a model for other homes in the village. Volunteers from the community help us with all kinds of services, from construction to development of promotional materials, and the construction of Hub City Village will be funded through grant monies, in-kind service donations, and monetary donations from community members. The next slide.
A lot of people ask, why tiny houses? And there are many reasons to build tiny homes and grow a new community. And I wanted to highlight that, first of all, CHC believes that shelter should be a basic human right, not a privilege. Practical economic reasons to build affordable housing include the fact that each of the 20 to 25 tiny homes that will comprise Hub City Village has a smaller economic and environmental footprint than a larger family houses. They're built at a lower cost, about $50,000 to $60,000 per unit according to the material prices currently. And because of the size of the homes, they require less energy and lower maintenance costs. Residents and volunteers are encouraged to contribute sweat equity. Hub City Village will be owned by the residents, and the participatory nature of a cooperative will require less staffing. Residents will be accountable for their own lives and future, from a community garden work to restorative justice, a democratic method of conflict resolution. Another reason CHC believes in the future of a model like Hub City Village is that it is sustainable because it offers permanent housing and the community is self-governed.
Next slide, please. So what does the Hub City Village model look like? Each of Hub City Village's 20 to 25 houses will be between 200 and 350 square feet. The village will provide safe, stable, and permanent housing for residents. Each house will sit on a permanent foundation, and each will have a living, sleeping area, a bathroom, and a mini kitchen area. There'll be a community building that will house a larger kitchen as well as washers and dryers. Next slide. Oh, me again. Hub City Village will be sustainable, and it will be 100% self-sufficient once it's built. All operational costs will be paid by the residents' rents. Residents must have a source of income, whether it be fixed, either from Social Security, pensions, or disability, or from a job. Rent will be no more than 30% of their income and will include utilities. Rents will be between $250 and $300 per month. $50 of the rent will be held in a savings account, and when the total reaches $2,000, the rent will decrease by that $50. That $2,000 will then be held in an expense account if the resident needs it for any unexpected expenses, or as a down payment on other housing if and when the resident decides to leave. The village is based on a limited equity cooperative model, making it a true nonprofit entity. Residents will be members of a housing cooperative and will own a share of the village. Also important to note is that CHC will place the property into a community land trust. The land on which the village rests will remain tied to cooperative housing in perpetuity. Next slide.
Wait. Go back. Thank you. We got a little ahead of ourselves with that one. I came here today, and I've always, I work around the corner, and I admire this garden. Oftentimes I walk past, and I love to see how it gets plowed, and then it planted, and then it grows up, and especially the sunflowers, waving over the garden. I think it's just very well thought out and taken care of, and I really love to see that. And I'm sure that it gets put to good use. So, like you guys, we are planning on, in Hub City Village, having a community center and a community garden to offset expenses for residents and to provide fresh food. And these shared facilities will promote a sense of community. Shared activities like gardening encourage involvement in the community on a social level, combating the debilitating sense of isolation that many unhoused people feel. Hub City Village will be an attractive, clean, fruitful community that the residents and the City of Albany can be proud of. This is where CHC is so different from other organizations. We address the whole person at Hub City Village by giving tenants the skills, tools, and responsibilities to succeed in running the community. Residents take part in the day-to-day management, and they will have the resources and the knowledge necessary to collaborate, problem solve, and grow. For instance, if there's a conflict within the community, they will be responsible for enforcing the rules and dealing with any issues that might arise. As mentioned, residents will be trained in restorative justice concepts and techniques. And furthermore, a trained peer support specialist will live on site to help assist tenants with facilitating needed services. Tenants must agree to these responsibilities and other bylaws when they join the Hub City Village community.
Next slide, please. We seem to have lost one.
Okay?
Okay, well, villages will also gain financial skills. Stacy has a favorite quote, which is, "The social capital created by residents engaged in a strong community and the financial capital that will result from each resident slowly building a savings account while living within their means is the perfect balance of American values. Together, we can do something that works effectively for the complete health and happiness of the individual, the neighborhood, and the City of Albany. CHC does not just build houses. We will build a strong community where residents learn the skills they need to create a unified, healthy village."
Stay there. There will be a multi-organizational effort to choose candidates for the village. Lynn County's Adult Services team will help CHC to identify candidates. The Adult Services team is comprised of a number of service organizations, and potential residents will apply for housing and will be selected for review by lottery. They'll then be screened through collaboration with service organizations, interviews, and background checks. Because the village is self-governing, it is crucial that residents are able to follow the rules of the village and to contribute to the operation of the community.
Next slide. We've created the organizational framework of the community, and we continue to reach out and build community partnerships. We've established policies, procedures, and a referral process for the residents. We're engaged in community outreach, making sure that our neighbors know of our plans and goals and understand what the community will look like. And we've been fundraising for phase 1 of the project, which is purchasing the land. This is being done with donations and grant monies. The community is helping us by donating in-kind construction services and materials, and we continue to build community support and fundraise through events, presentations, and social media. Next slide.
I can't wait for that slide to show our piece of property. And we are currently conducting a an appraisal for the land. So the landowner and us are doing our little appraisals. So, yeah, I think that's what it's called. I have a guy that does that. Okay. Our goal for phase 1 is land acquisition, and we plan on purchasing about 1.5 acres of property to create about 25 homes for Hub City Village. The land will be close to public transportation, services, and stores. The new community will be an integral asset to the neighborhood. Square One Villages of Eugene's Emerald Village ran into some initial opposition from neighbors who were concerned about increased crime and lower property values. Square One met with those neighbors and showed them plans. They invited one of them to be a board member within the village. And once the neighbors saw that the village was going to enhance the values, enhance the community, more came on board. After the village was built, property values actually increased and crime decreased. The village is a virtually pleasing, neat and clean addition to the neighborhood. And I can't wait to talk to those neighbors and bring them on board. I'm looking forward to that. So that is our plan for the rest of this year. And in 2022, we'll begin phase 2, which encompasses the site preparations. And that will include the site plan, building the infrastructure of the village, the parking, and all the other requirements dictated by multifamily land use codes. And the estimated cost for phase 1 and 2 combined is about $1.25 million.
Next slide, please. By 2023, we'll begin constructing tiny houses. Each of the homes will meet the building code definition of a permanent dwelling with a solid cement foundation and will be fully compliant with all necessary city codes. And the next slide, please.
That's a cool, I haven't seen that slide before. I really like it. It shows the whole city, and it's actually the urban growth boundary of Albany. And so our village has to be within that urban growth boundary, as is all new construction. You know, how will this village, Hub City Village, help the city of Albany? I want to share with you that answer to that question. Having a home is fundamental to human dignity. Studies have shown that housing stability positively affects both mental and physical health, allowing people to better manage chronic and acute health conditions. By reducing homelessness, we will save the greater Albany community money by decreasing reliance on expensive emergency room services frequently used by the unhoused and other expenses that you know happen with the fact that people are not able to have permanent housing. As the village comes to life, Albany residents will feel the satisfaction that comes from helping those less fortunate. Together, we will watch our neighbors in Hub City Village become contributing members of the greater Albany community. Creating Housing Coalition and our partners will build a better Albany, one tiny house at a time. And it starts with Hub City Village. Thank you.
So if any of you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time. Yes.
Hold on one second. Let me bring you the microphone. And I'm going to you because who knows where your hands have been.
With the 1.5 acres, are you looking at purchasing, instead of just a 1.5, maybe 3 acres so you can add another 20 to 50 homes? With the price of lots going at around 100,000 now, I hope you can get that 1.5 acres for about that amount. So anyway, that's my question. And as we discussed earlier, some people feel that the home should be like the Mennonite I live in the White House. Well, anyway, in Eugene, they have different colored ones. So what are your opinions and about the acreage?
There are a myriad of questions there, and I'll start with the last one, which is the residents and volunteers get to contribute to the design of the community. So we'd like to allow the residents to have that creativity with their own tiny home. Initially, probably we'll have just a smaller palette for the outside, but then we'll get to have painting parties. I can't wait. And for the question about the amount of land, that about 1.5, really in Square One Villages, Emerald Village is built on 1 acre, and they have built 3 villages currently, and they're working on their 4th. The 4th one is on 7 acres, like you were saying, and up to 92 tiny houses on that. So if we had bigger pieces of property, yes, we would want to expand as well.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest problems that we have found here in Albany is there is a big shortage of available land. So we've had to be a little creative, and we've had to step back and try to figure things out with what is available. If anybody here knows of anybody that would like to either donate or sell some land to us, please let us know.
Next question.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, do you see this as a long-term solution for the residents who will be living in this village, or do you see this as a stepping stone and making space for more people to take advantage of this community?
Oh, I love
there?
that. Thank you for that question, Catherine. This is a permanent tiny home village, permanent foundations, accessible dwelling units for persons to be able to age in place. So if that person is on Social Security, they can live there, live out their life there. If they are a foster kid aging out of the foster care system and they need a time to, get that education and experience under the belt. And so we would welcome a number of different folks, but it will be someplace where they could stay, like the Mennonite Village.
Yeah, I do want to clarify that this is not transitional housing. This is permanent housing, and it has all of the amenities that any permanent house would have. Residents are encouraged to stay as long as they like, and as Stacy had mentioned, if that means that they spend the rest of their lives there, that's great too. So we're not going to be pushing people along to move on to different housing.
And with the cooperative, I want to add to that, because with the cooperative nature of the village, people are working together. It becomes their community. They are heavily involved, and why would we want them to just be kicked out after 18 months? No, we want a stable, a long-term, productive community.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. One of the questions I have about your long-term scheme for residents is that as they get older, they become less and less able to cooperate in the community's growth and work in the community and stuff like that. And if you have more and more older residents, that's going to go downhill, and you won't have those people to help provide the upkeep and the necessary involvement. How do you handle that if you have a long-term group of people in there that are older on Social Security and can't provide the help they need?
Okay, so that's great, because the community is self-governed. It takes, as they do this process, they can elect to have their funding that they produce to pay for their needed services, and they can hire folks from outside to help with some of those things that are needed, like repairs and upkeep. That is going to be something that they will be able to make that decision year to year.
Yeah, and that being said, it's also just the nature of rental housing that people move in and out. As I said before, we are not mandating that people move out, but that's just the nature of rental housing. So we do anticipate there being turnover, and although there may be more people who are elderly further down the road, I think that the younger people will be able to step in and take over some of the critical services. And then, as Stacy said, they can also elect to hire out some of the services.
Good question.
Is there a plan for accessibility both into the building and in the restroom and kitchen areas?
Couldn't quite hear. Could you hear?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
I'm asking about accessibility, wheelchair people and people who have other difficulties getting around.
Yes, like other affordable housing communities or buildings developments, there's at least a minimum amount of residences that are required to have ADA accessibility, and we plan to be more than meet the minimum.
Yes, also because we are encouraging residents to age in place, that's why we're going to have more than that minimum requirement. So there will be quite a few houses that are ADA compliant.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And I may have missed it, but how far have you come along in your phase one funding?
So for phase one funding, it's super exciting. We are about $1 million in right now between pledged money, expected money, and actual funds that we have. We recently received a $600,000 grant from the state, and we are included in the Build Back Better package that's being presented right now, and that would be $800,000. The city also has set aside $100,000 for us with their CDBG grant, and we have pledges from other donors for well over $100,000. So we have the money that's necessary right now for the first phase, and we're working toward money for the second phase at this time.
While you're thinking of your next question, I just want to throw a shout out to one of your members here. He's not here right now, but Ken Stahl is a great, awesome person who's been volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, and I get to work with him every week, several days a week, and he is just an amazing person, and I just wanted to share with you, I'm so glad that he's a member of your community, because he's awesome.
Does anyone else have any questions? Great. Well, feel free at any time. You can reach us either by phone, or if you get on our website, you can email us. The phone number is also on the website. So please feel free, if you ever have any questions or concerns, to just let us know. And again, thank you so much for allowing us to tell you about Creating Housing Coalition in Hub City Village.